Hello, folks. I am your loyal Heroscape community coordinator, William A. Wellman, aka Dandelions. I am joined today by the wonderful Heroscape designers, Dylan Fernandez and
Hello.
Alex Davies. Um, Welcome back, everybody. We're here to talk about the very diverse and interesting set of characters that make up our latest wave of Heroscape releases, with the Nostra's Nightmare wave coming out in fall 2026. I'm so stoked about so many of these releases. There's such a mix of things the fans have been clamoring for years now, things that I personally have been dreaming of for years now. So it's wonderful to see a lot of these things come together. This is a pretty big wave for Heroscape. It includes Deathwalker 10,000, Krampus, Dr. Torvik Morenstein and Morenstein's Masterpiece, the Twilight Clan Riders, the Students of Kalari Payat, and also some remastered figures, including the Knights of Weston, the McDurk Warriors, Sir Gilbert, Alistair McDurk, Zedekron, and then for the first time physically in Heroscape, the new Samuel Brown. I wanted to ask each of you, what was your favorite design from this wave?
Oh, that's a tough one. You got
I
an answer,
know.
Dylan?
Probably. I think for me, it's probably the students of Kalari Payat. I loved working on them. I loved being able to bring a new historical unit into Heroscape from an area that Heroscape hasn't visited yet, which is really cool. And I love a good positioning based mechanic. I was an X-Wing player. What do you want? It's a game of positioning. So I like that type of gameplay, and the students really scratch that itch for me of I need to keep them far apart from things, but if I can bring them in and then I can hit multiple things, or I can get really cheeky and try and kill one thing and then get that ranged attack on something else, like that makes my neurons fire in very fun ways. So I enjoy that one probably the most, but it's a tight race.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in this wave. I also love the students. They play a really fun game and they're really self-sufficient. They're one of those Hero Escape armies where you could literally run all students and do just fine. It might even be, in some cases, the optimal build, depending on the format size and what else is in the meta at the time. But for me, I think it's got to be the Twilight Clan Riders. I mean, one, I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. Two, I'm a ninja enthusiast. And three, I really like all of the gameplay options that it opens up. I think having Ninja carry on the Twilight Clan Riders really encourages the kind of army that I like to build, which is a good mix of commons and heroes. And it does it in a unique way. It does it in a way that isn't bonding exactly. It's a sort of a movement bonding type of ability. But what it does is it lets you position your really interesting ninja heroes right up in and make them a threat right away. I mean, an early Storm Shadow protected and in the right place with Whirlwind Assault can be extremely dangerous. You can get Snake Eyes halfway across the board for a good assassination technique. Uh, and there are more ninjas coming in the future with a bunch of fun synergies with this build as well. So for me, it's ninjas on motorcycles. Can't go wrong.
Not to mention the Tanuki combination where you can bring
Yes.
up Tanuki and then have Tanuki kick someone away from a motorcycle to get the LEA. That's a fun sort of 1-2 punch.
Yeah, it's fun too. It's a finesse army as well. I really like armies that require you to play in every phase of the game. So I tend to gravitate towards armies that you need to think about where your order markers are going to go. I mean, sometimes you're just, feeling a little bit lackadaisical and you want an army where you just dump everything on a bonding squad. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I definitely go that route from time to time. But in general, I like the armies where you're thinking about every turn really carefully before you roll those initiative dice.
If you are playing an army that has a central kingpin or important hero who stays in the back line, like the elites of Ular, for instance, where Mialki and Ziamara both want to stay kind of averse from danger as much as possible and let the elites take the brunt of the force, be on your guard because a ninja can just walk right through you with that phantom walk and then assassinate you in the back
Yes.
line. And
And
with Twilight Clan carrying them 7 spaces forward, That is a
Hmm.
nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, a couple order markers on the Twilight Clan. In round one, you can get two of your ninjas in a really good position. And then that OM3 might even be a very early ninja strike from one of your heroes, depending on what the situation on the map is. And it's fun. It's a huge threat. It hits from a long distance away, and it definitely will keep you on your toes if you're up against it.
Absolutely. I'd like to talk about a fairly special figure in this wave, Samuel Brown. This is a significant character from Heroscape's history. Can you two talk about why he matters so much to the community in the first place, to people who've never heard of this guy before? And what was the process like trying to bring this character to life?
Um, so yeah, with as for the context for Samuel Brown, he was a design that was originally cooked up at the tail end of Heroscape's original run, in the aughts, and he was intended to be a convention figure that would be a repaint of a Fourth Massachusetts line. They had done all the card design, and then the game was shelved. And the designers got permission to actually release that card design out to the world and say, hey, if you want, you can print out this card and repaint one of your fourth mass and play with Samuel Brown as sort of a last gift to the community before the game went into its deep slumber that we resuscitated it from a couple of years ago. But he never did have an official figure or an official release. And now we get to provide that for people. And I think it's fitting that it's our National Heroscape Day OP figure for this year to really celebrate the Heroscape history. So in terms of like the process of bringing him to life, the card was already designed. They did that for us, 16 years ago, whatever that was that they designed
Mhm.
him. And so really it was just updating the model and creating a new model that really stays true to what he should be. So he still is essentially a fourth Massachusetts lineman, but a little more detail. We've got that little bayonet on his belt to represent the fire and rush. Just a good, homage to what he could have been and bringing him into present day.
Absolutely. Talking a blast from the past, we have for the first time in Heroscape remastered figures entering the field. What does the remastered title mean for Heroscape figures, and what does it mean for our contemporary and all-time formats to have remastered Knights of Weston out there?
That is a great question. Remastered is a really fun project. I'm very keen on it personally because I just got into Heroscape within the last couple of years. And so I don't have that deep collection that a lot of people do have. And so many of these really impactful, fun, interesting Heroscape figures and army cards are really hard to find. And if you do find them, they can be very, very expensive. So, we don't have access to the old molds or any of the old materials or any of that stuff. So these are not reprints per se. But what they are doing is they're allowing us to produce these units that people love and that are, mainstays of a lot of armies and have a lot of popularity out there, but go for outrageous prices on the secondary market. So we've created all new sculpts, we've created new molds, new everything, but we've hewn really closely to the original design. So they're a little bit more detailed, they're updated, but the poses are essentially the same. And what that lets you do is you can either start, brand new, like I will be starting with a new collection of these classic figures, or if you have your own collection of classic figures already, you can just add these and they'll fit right in. You can use either. And the other really exciting thing is we are bringing all remastered units into the contemporary format as well. So they'll be legal for
Nice.
contemporary games and for all-time games, kind of just helping to bridge that gap between formats as well and give people the experience that they want in the new contemporary format as well as the all-time format.
And we, as a nod to the classic cards, we're able to do two different cards, one which has the old school graphic design with pictures of the minis on it, which for me, who's been playing this game forever, is such a great little nostalgia hit to see that with these cool new detailed minis in picture form. So that's fun. But otherwise, yeah, just a pretty faithful retelling. Some wording changes just to keep up with how cards are worded these days, and the occasional points change on some of them for things that could use a bit of a buffer nerf. But otherwise, yeah, that's remastered.
When something like the Knights of Weston gets a point change in, does that only apply to our contemporary format? Does that also apply backwards to the all-time format as well? What does that mean with players who still have an old Knights of Weston card in squad?
So
That
it's
would have. Oh yeah, go for it.
Oh, no worries. I was just gonna say it's very similar to the points adjustments that Renegade has already made. I think there's about 10 adjustments that we've made to classic figures. This is the same thing. So whether the points are going up or going down, those figures new cost is the official cost, and that will apply to both the all-time format and the contemporary format. So, for example, Knights of Weston are up to 80 points. That's based on many, many years of play, and a lot of playtesting as well. They were deemed to be just hitting a little bit too hard, and so they got a slight increase. Um, that's the kind of like very minimal tweaking that we're going to be doing to these units, mostly based on a lot of existing data and experience.
How did you decide which heroes and squads to remaster? Because, as you know, as a new collector, Alex, there are hundreds of original Heroscape cards to choose from. What made these the pick for this first wave of remasters, and why was bringing back old figures important for Heroscape?
Partly it's what we talked about already of that some of these old Heroscape figures were increasingly hard to find at a secondary market price that didn't involve like pawning my left hand to get them.
Right.
So some of them were definitely taken from let's give the community a way to get these cool figures that is a lot more accessible, which is what led us to the flag bearers for one, because those were a Toys R Us exclusive that they only made a
Right.
handful of, and so those are crazy hard to get. And so it's like, okay, if we're gonna be bringing back stuff from the past, let's make it more accessible. And so Sir Gilbert is a flag bearer, and now you can get him in a much more approachable way. And same with Zetacron, who was printed in a box of big figures that was very hard to come by down the line. So partly it's that, partly especially with these Jandar figures, they're mostly historicals, which there's been a dearth of in contemporary, and we're adding more, starting with the some of the stuff this summer, and then the students now
Mhm.
getting into some new stuff. But bringing back some of these lets us sort of shore up that pillar of Heroscape as well, and bring it to the new community because there's thousands of people now playing Heroscape for the first time who didn't have access to that back in the day. So a little of column A, a little of column B, and then once you get it whittled down to those things, it's what is the most fun and what's going to collaborate with contemporary well.
Even as someone who has an old squad or two of knights, I definitely look forward to getting to expand that army to sort of a tournament playable amount of knights. Again, without like costing quite as much as it goes for on the aftermarket.
Mhm.
Speaking of historical figures, we have a brand new historical squad in this wave in the Students of Kalari Payat. What inspired you to pick these as sort of the new, like, historical, I guess, direction to branch out in? And how did you go about deciding what general they would fall under?
If I'm remembering correctly, I think this squad in particular just began with my fascination with the Urumi and with the martial arts techniques involved with what is essentially like a razor sharp whip sword. I've seen some videos of these martial arts practices online. I've
Oh yeah.
seen some pretty amazing things, and it's very unique. It also affords us the opportunity to visit a new region of Earth's history. I mean, this planet is rich with history, with its own lore. I mean, Earth is a fascinating place. And we haven't really been too far outside of North America, Europe, and Japan so far. So this is an opportunity to go to India, which is an incredibly ancient country with many interesting traditions, and pull these martial artists out of, the myths of history and into Heroscape. And I think they fit right in with all the other fun historical stuff that has come before them.
Yeah. And I guess as for why Ular specifically, partly Ular has an affinity for martial artists, as shown with the monks from Classic, but also a lot of Ular's vibe is this notion of channeled chaos, where you've got Ular being one of the sort of capital G good generals, I think it's fairly safe to say. And but at the same time he commands hordes of wild snake people. He commands beasts and things, and a lot of it is taking these wild things and channeling them toward good. Same thing with like elves channeling the wild of magic into good. And so with the students of Kalari Payat and the Arumi specifically, the notion of being able to fight with an Arumi is taking a weapon that is chaotic and channeling it so precisely because you can wave it around yourself and it's chaos, but you can channel it and strike out with it. And so that felt very Ular, and then that also translated into the game design of how they actually play. So that's the gist.
Yeah, it's a weapon that requires incredible focus and control because it's
Yes.
just as dangerous to you as it is to your enemies.
What did it look like trying to translate the martial arts and the use of this weapon into Heroscape gameplay mechanics?
It it sort of came together pretty pretty well. It sort of it flowed in when I was drafting up how this was going to work, because I wanted to play on that dichotomy of the Irumi of it can be a reach weapon because it is a very long blade, but frequently it is used by twirling it around yourself to attack out at multiple things at once. But any motion with the Irumi is going to be more difficult with anyone nearby because of how sort of wild and chaotic it is. So I had the sort of 3 point idea of attack multiple things next to you or attack with reach. But if you have nothing next to you and can really go for the spins, you can get a lot more damage out of it. So that was that push pull that we were working with the design, and then that went into playtesting. We made sure it all worked, and for the most part it was just the numbers that got tweaked on that one as we went through it, because the design
Mhm.
itself just sort of flowed from the martial art.
Well, it's a fun design to me as well because it offers really great counterplay, right? You can get up close, you can get next to a student and take their defense down, get that hit in. What it means is that they're really nicely balanced against ranged and melee. They're gonna by and large have that defense four against ranged units, but melee units can close the gap and take some of that power away. So it becomes this really interesting game of positioning and counter positioning. So whether you're playing with the students or whether you're going up against the students, I think both players have a lot of thinking to do in terms of exactly where they're going to put their figures, how they're going to line up their attacks, where to try to probe the weaknesses of their opponent's army. And that's just really fun. Dylan and I just played a game with them a couple days ago, and it was a ton of fun. So I'm very excited for these to come out.
Always great to come back to them and revisit that design and go, oh yeah, we cooked with these. These are
Yeah,
fun.
they're fun.
I
Um,
can't wait.
that and the other like cool part of the process for the students was working with Jeremy Unit, who is but one of our like lore consultants for Heroscape, but who is also a person of Indian descent who was able to work with us in more of a cultural consulting capacity as well to make sure we really nailed vibe and the aesthetic and make sure the gameplay and power text all fit within the historical context of India and of Kalari Payat as a martial art. So noticing like some of those power names like Become All Eyes were suggested by Jeremy as a way to really pay homage to the historical culture. So
Yeah,
I
Jeremy
love
does
that.
really deep lore dives, which we appreciate. He goes very into the weeds and into the details, which is great resource for us.
Mhm.
In both his dives on Heroscape lore, but also on real world lore when it came to hunting
Exactly.
down historical information about
Hmm.
these guys. What is your favorite special ability in this wave?
Annihilation Beam. It's gotta be. It's I love Deathwalkers and just how silly they are with they're just so all or nothing. It's you can last a whole game with a Deathwalker if you roll decent, but you're never gonna roll decent because it's a Deathwalker. And I like that this just sort of continues that trend in the other direction. It's theoretically infinite. Odds are you're gonna get two skulls out of it. The most I've seen is five, and that was crazy.
Hmm.
But you could get more, and that's fun. I
Feels
don't
good when
know.
it happens.
Yeah, I just think it's neat. I don't know.
Deathwalker 9000 was 100% my favorite original Rise of the Valkyrie Master Set Heroscape figure. So
Hmm.
getting to see this continued update, I feel like in the visual design, there's a lot of homages to that original sculpt and style. Very gritty, very chunky, very like covered in mechanical greebles.
Hmm.
But also its own fearsome new visual thing with this gigantic cannon like
Yeah.
hanging off the back and front. Um,
Gives you a
even
chance to play with multiple Deathwalkers as well. So if you're a
yes.
true Deathwalker enthusiast, you can put a full army together, and they all really benefit from Deathwalker 10,000's ability to prevent them from just being auto-killed by the new Sudema, for example, or any of those automatic wound powers that are their bane in Classic.
Yeah, if you're ever playing Deathwalker 9000s against figures like the original Sonlin, you know that as soon as he gets within 4 spaces of you, you're doing coin flips for your life. So Deathwalker 10,000's ability to boost the others gives you some very fun new possibilities when it comes to playing these old hulking ruins. Alex, what was your favorite special ability out of this wave?
I gotta go with the basket. It's very funny and fun to stuff stuff into Krampus's basket. Krampus is a very, true to the lore figure as well. Um, not just going after naughty children though, going after anyone he wants to on Valhalla that
Hmm.
gets too close. It's a fun risk reward mechanic because you want to protect Krampus once you have some things in his basket so they don't come back onto the table.
Hmm.
And he fits in really well with Holochot and some other kind of fun Dryan style builds, which I think is a great addition to that army. I think it really brings a Holochot army with both Krampus and the Kraken now in the roster of beasts that
Yes.
Holochot can command. I think Holochot is going to be a pretty formidable force in the competitive scene as well, and that's kind of fun to see how new units, new figures, new army cards can really breathe new life into older figures and older sort of commander style figures as well, like Holochot.
We've been waiting a long time for some more beasts in
Yes.
contemporary for Halishot to work with.
This will not be the end of the beasts. Worry not.
No.
More beasts
Holochot will
yet
be
to
eating
come.
well for quite some time.
As a fan of all things spooky, the Krampus is so good. It's such a horrifying, visceral board presence. The art is ferocious.
I love that
Um,
we were able to do the one goat leg. I always liked that part of the Krampus design, and I was like, we gotta.
It's a remarkably lore accurate Krampus. It's a little bit maybe bulkier and sort of maybe a little bit more demonic than some of the depictions, but in terms of the details, that it's got all the right details. It's very accurate to the original extremely weird legend. So I like that about it. I like folklore a lot. I like how strange it is. I think it's fun to translate it into Heroscape terms and put it on the
Absolutely.
table.
And when it comes to doing a Christmas figure, it's a nice reminder that not all holiday spirits are nice.
No, in fact, most of them are pretty nasty.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, you two, for talking with us about Nostra's Nightmare and this new wave of releases. I'm so excited for this to hit tables, and I can't wait for October.
Same.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, William.
Thanks, everybody.